And as we see in the plantation sector, which is one of the pillars of the Malaysian economy also, like Indonesia also, we also do a lot of plantation sector, and it also celebrates the pandemic situation. Labor shortage have also pushed the CPO prices to their highest level in recent years. What step did Malaysia government take to push palm oil prices and palm production back to stability?
Yeah, well, the recent trend of the high CPO prices, particularly in the region and Malaysia as well, of course, is largely as a result of lower CPO production, and we also have a very tight stock levels. So really, if we look at what's happening in this region, there is an issue of supply and demand, right? And supply and demand in any industries will then determine the price point, right? And this we are seeing not just for palm oil, with all the other commodity prices as well. If we look at prices of oil, you know, where it's heading and where it was before, as the economy of the world reopens, right? The demand is then much stronger. But because of the pandemic, there was an issue of lag where the supply is not coming in. So I'm confident that when we look at it, of course, the price is good for the economies who are for us, right? I mean, if you look at the CPO price today, on average this year is around 4,000 ringgit per ton. That's about $1,000 per ton, but it is as high as now. It's close to 5,000 ringgit per ton, so it's about $1,250 already, and that's very good. And moving forward, of course, depending on supply and demand, the prices will reflect that. In terms of what you touched on the labor, that is actually one of the reasons as well, in terms of the supply for Malaysia especially. But fortunately, given the number of cases have gone down, we have nearly fully reopened the economy, and therefore, most recently, the government has also allowed our foreign investors to come in, but foreign labor, as you mentioned just now, for this, especially for Malaysia, two sectors that requires foreign labor, which is plantation and also construction. So the standard operating procedures have been finalized, and we are now allowing, back foreign workers to come in. But of course, the measures in terms of safety, health measures have to be complied with. So that, I think, will then help some of the challenges faced by the industry when it comes to the supply part, given the strong demand globally for palm oil today.
And still about the crude palm oil or CPO, we know that Malaysian and Indonesian CPO products are facing obstacles in the European market. What cooperation steps that can both of Malaysian and Indonesian take to stem this negative issue about CPO?
Well, you're very right, Daniel. I think this is one, during the visit, our visit here, this issue of palm oil has been touched upon by many of my counterparts here. Some really raised that concern. And I'm happy to note that, Malaysia and Indonesia will continue, and in fact must continue, to work together on the palm oil industry. And sustainability is also crucial, for continued resilience of the palm oil industry. So when you talk about cooperation, a crucial avenue for cooperation will, we must continue via the Council of Palm Oil Producing Countries, CPOP, I think they call it, of which, both Indonesia and Malaysia are key members of this cooperation, this council. So via this council, Malaysia and Indonesia can actually undertake more offensive approach to jointly promote, what are the virtues of the palm oil, and can compare the palm oil credentials with other vegetable oils. So really, Malaysia, of course, when I touched upon the sustainable angle of the sustainability angle of this industry, and it's crucial, right? So we actually support the adoption of the global framework of principles for sustainable palm oil to become one of the guiding principles. So we need to counter these arguments, and I think we've done it very well. But as if we work together closer, Malaysia and Indonesia, I'm sure we are able to then educate and explain, right, the merits and the strength and the sustainability angle of this industry to the world. Right?
And also Malaysia is listed as one of Indonesia's largest trading partners in Southeast Asia, and the value of trade between the two countries continues to increase. As we now recorded, surplus about $397.5 million, and mainly comes from agricultural product, food and beverage, as well as Muslim clothing, as people know. So, yeah, what steps can be taken to increase the value of trade between the two countries?
Well, you're right. We are, Malaysia and Indonesia is, a big trading partner. In fact, in ASEAN, Malaysia, for Indonesia anyway, in ASEAN, Malaysia is the third largest trading partner. And in 2020, in last year, the total trade in Malaysia and Indonesia actually was very high. It's about 15.8 billion US dollar. And if we look at where we are today, that's why we are here. We are very optimistic and positive that more investments will be made. In fact, collaboration at the G2G level was witnessed by the President and the Prime Minister recently. And this is in the area of customs, education. But the Prime Minister also witnessed many other collaborations when we had our events with the business community here in Malaysia, Indonesia, where the Prime Minister witnessed and under the potential investment that's coming here. Close to 3.1 billion US dollar of Malaysian investments that are coming here. So, we look forward to that. And I had a very good meetings with some of the ministers here in Indonesia about further strengthening the collaboration when it comes to investment and working cooperation between the two economies.
And then, still talking about the cooperation, would be there any investment plan specifically from Khazanah in Indonesia?
Yes. Well, Khazanah has traditionally been one of the most active sovereign wealth fund from Malaysia. We have many big investment arms and big funds as well, not just investment pension funds, the likes of EPF. We have big mutual funds, the like of PNB, which are in fact larger than Khazanah. But Khazanah has been active, you're right. In fact, the Khazanah continues to hold its stakes in banks like CIMB Niaga here, like Axiata, Excel, and then of course PNB also has a Maybank here, BII, and more other investments that are made. But more recently, there's a few investments into the tech sector of Indonesia companies. Indonesia has created and been very successful in creating many unicorns here, tech unicorns. So Khazanah, PNB, and even EPF have been participating. Now, I can't name them here. One of them will be announced soon, hopefully. But they, even in the recent Bukalapak, for example, there have been investment made by Malaysian government funds into this to show confidence. And in fact, the Prime Minister also witnessed an MOU where we also invested in some of the funds here recently. So I'm optimistic, and it won't be just Khazanah. I think there's many other funds that are now looking at Indonesia, given the strong prospective growth of Indonesia in this region.
And then one of the topics discussed by the Malaysia Prime Minister and President Jokowi is investment in the new capital city. Are there a plan also for the Malaysian government to invest directly in the new capital city, or would it be involved in cooperating with the private sector also?
Yes, that was mentioned, and we spoke about G2G, in terms of the level of involvement, understanding, but it will involve a lot of private sector, right? In fact, we know that many Malaysian private sectors have already been in discussion and been even engaging the government of Indonesia on the design of the ICANN, I think, and then they've been participating, and many other infrastructure-related projects. So I'm looking forward to this. Indonesia and Malaysia, do enjoy a special relationship, and a special relationship, is to be enhanced in a meaningful economic partnership between the two countries.
And then, as you mentioned before, you met most of our minister in our country, and as we saw in the news that already been written by the journalists, that you create a memorandum of understanding also with our finance minister.
Yes, finance minister.
Can you elaborate more about the memorandum of understanding?
Yeah. So that memorandum of understanding is really about customs, but we wanted to expand that bigger, But let's just talk a bit about what we actually have signed. It is actually, looking at strengthening cooperation, especially in addressing custom-related trade issues between the two countries. We want to promote the use of international standards and best practices. We want to modernize the custom practices and also cooperation of exchange between customs when it comes to information. But we did also talk about Islamic finance, which of course is not in the MOU, but during my meeting with the Honorable Minister of Finance of Indonesia, we talked about other collaborations on top of the customs MOU that we have signed. I talk about Islamic finance, we're talking about ESG, of course, COP26 is happening now, and we have come up with various commitments on behalf of our governments, and see how, where sustainable financing can also come into play, where both countries can play a role. We're talking about carbon exchange, many other things that I think between Malaysia and Indonesia being, a major player in this region, can work together and collaborate more going forward.
Mm-hmm. Would it be in 2022, as you mentioned before, that 2022 is the recovery year also? Will it be happening?
Well, we have to start preparing now, and I think the visit by our Prime Minister and the very productive meeting between the two will pave the way, build a foundation for us to then, continue to make sure that 2022 will be a year where we can forge better, stronger collaboration between the two countries, and I'm optimistic myself.
And hopefully also Indonesia and Malaysia can cooperate more in 2022, and hopefully any plan and any also like recovery act that been done can brings a lot of great result in economic recovery.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Zafrul. We are really, really honored for this exclusive interview.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you again for having me in this interview.
Dan demikian dialog kami bersama Mr. Tengku Zafrul Aziz, Menteri Keuangan dari Malaysia. CNBC Indonesia, Beyond Jangan Business. Lupa untuk install aplikasi CNBC Indonesia di App Store dan juga di Play Store untuk terus mengikuti informasi dan berita terkini terkait ekonomi dan juga bisnis.